It's that time again. Not just a podcast, but it's the end of the year, end of 2024. But before I get up out of here, before I leave y'all to see you next year, we got to do a little podcast. And so you already know if you've been, man, kind of slipping up on the last one. You already know. You know what time it is. CarQuicks podcast, episode 77, the last one of the year. It's your host, Cameron Biggs, and I hope this year has been blessed for your family, for your loved ones, for the children, that things have gone well. Things that haven't gone well have been resolved, because, everything isn't always great. Ebbs and flows in life. Things come and they go. Things go well, things go bad, but the strong survive, and your will and the things that you focus on and you pray about and the things that you focus in on can be accomplished. And this podcast is one of those things, right? This episode isn't really going to be about car news, as you probably can already tell. I'm just wrapping it up for the year. I mean, there is some car things that happen, but I'm not going to dive into them. I'm just going to kind of recap and just say thank you to anybody that's watched this podcast, who's listened to it, who found it, streamed it, told a friend, told a coworker, a colleague, a significant other, anybody that crossed paths with you and you said, hey, what's your podcast list? There's this guy I listen to named CarQuicks. He does an automotive podcast and I like it. And I hope to keep improving. I hope that these episodes, as they've gone on, even the ones that I deem not really that good in my eyes, I hope that as the years have gone on and as the months and episodes, that it's improved, that it's gotten better, that you're enjoying what's happening. And I'm proud of my own self because I started this back in 2023 after holding on to an idea of doing an automotive podcast for years. I mean, 4 years. Like if I look back at when I started my YouTube channel and just how many years I just sat there just knowing I can do a channel and I can do a podcast. I can do this. This is just kind of in my nature. I'm good at talking. I'm a good communicator. I like talking about these things. I talk about them to friends of mine. We're at car meets for hours. So this isn't that hard to do. At least that's how I'm looking at it. And so one of the things that I wanted to accomplish when it came to this podcast and what my goal was to essentially not give up. Because if you listen to a lot of the things of people that are very successful, especially when it comes to podcasts, and this is just kind of maybe something that can help anybody that's working on something brand new. The people that have been doing it, they're always going to say things like maybe the market is saturated, or it's going to take a lot of work, or it's not going to come easy, or it's going to take years of just putting your foot on the gas and just hoping for the best, and, luck will come involved. And I would sometimes take those things and they would discourage me from even starting because it would be like, it doesn't matter. The ship already sailed. There's enough automotive podcasts out there. And then I started listening to all the ones I had and all the ones I listened to and realized that there's still a lane. There's still opportunity for anyone on anything because it's never going to stop. It's not like they're going to close the books on cars and say, we're not doing it no more. We're flying now. Or we all can be jumper and we can just jump to whatever location we want to. We don't need them anymore. So there's always a lane. And so I'm proud that I said that to myself and I applied it 2 years ago and said, go ahead and do this. The worst thing that could possibly happen is that it works. The best thing is that it's wildly successful. And the ultimate goal may fall somewhere in the middle where it's like I'm doing something I love and it's bringing in success, whatever it may be. Maybe it's when I get to the car reviews. Maybe it's when I get more invites to events. Maybe it's things I'm doing on my car and the partnerships I can do with the company. So I'm just happy that I kept it going and I didn't stop for anything. And it won't stop. Next year, I have some ideas. I have some plans. I want to do the live streaming thing actually next year. I want to kind of start. I don't know how I'm going to kind of piece it together. This entire layout that you see now in the video ultimately is going to change, but my goal for that is by the 100th episode, we have an introduction for a new podcast to lay out. And I have some cool ideas that I want to implement. I'm busy literally revamping the garage in order to accomplish what I'm trying to do here. And it's not going to be too drastically different than what you see here, but just something that's just cool. Just add a little bit of flair to the things I already do. But the live streaming I want to do in regards to an idea I have when it comes to car configurators and just things that I already do. It's just one of those other things that I do just in my own spare time that I figured I can turn this into content because I'm not the only person that does this and I can have a fun conversation with it. Similar to when I did the Exhausted series, which I purposely want to be here and there. I don't want it to be a very consistent. If I have consistency with the Exhausted episodes, and if you haven't watched any of those, you got to go to YouTube. Those are only on YouTube. It's really like an after nighttime discussion about something in automotive, usually some controversy or some opinion that I feel that I have that others may not have at all. So it's a cool, like, just real conversation between just me and myself, honestly, and you listening in. That I want to have probably like once a month, because usually it's really on a topic that either comes up and I want to discuss kind of some more of it. But the podcast is going to continue every week. I did have a goal a while back that I wanted to do twice a week. I still kind of have that, but I don't know if that's like just kind of stretching it too much, because I like to have a good block of news and I like to talk about things that I find interesting. I don't want to just, like I said, reel down news like a column or just reading down the table of contents and saying, hey, this happened, this happened. Some of the news I just don't care to really speak about. I don't think it's really entertaining, to be honest. Like, if it's talking about recalls, unless I make a spin on it and it's funny, I'll do it. But after the 9th recall article, I'm not going to just sit here and just be like, all right, guys, today we're going to talk about recalls only. I mean, that's just not, it's not entertaining. Podcasts, because I listen to so many and for so many hours, podcasts for me are a way of entertainment. They are to help you on the long drive. They help you during the work. So you want to hear things. I like them to be concise. I don't need them to be 2 hours long. I'm not Joe Rogan. He might talk to somebody that's like a scientist. They're interesting. They can talk for that long. But one of the things that I want to do is always remind myself to remain consistent with what I'm doing. And if you're working on something, if you're a content creator, if you're thinking about doing a podcast, if you're thinking about starting a YouTube channel, only thing I can say is the same thing everybody else has said. Be consistent, just do it, hit record. The best thing isn't going to happen until you've worked that muscle. I put up videos now to this day that sometimes I'm like, it's not my best work, but I still put it out. I don't hold it, because if nobody sees it, even if it's good, bad, or otherwise, what's the point? I don't care if somebody likes it, dislikes it. You get comments that say, I don't like what you said. I don't like this video. I don't like what you're doing. And the point of it all is that I don't care if somebody doesn't like what I do, because I'm not trying to appease to every single person. I'm trying to be who I am. And if you find what I do entertaining and good and you want to join in and listen to what I'm doing and subscribe to the channel and subscribe to the podcast, and awesome. Like, those are the people I want in there. But one of the other things too I want to think about is some of the things I got to do this year. Like the SEMA show, to this day, I know what happened in November. It hasn't really been that long, but like I still think about that pretty consistently. I'm like, yo, that was an awesome week. And I cannot wait to do it again. Even my wife, the person that isn't even the biggest car enthusiast, she likes it because she loves me, honestly. She follows me along with it. Even she was like, that was a good time, just because of the sheer amount of stuff you see. So I'm looking forward to next year. I'm looking forward to getting deeper involved with automotive journalism, with Texas auto writers, with anyone who is writing about a car. I'm trying to be involved, and I'm going to get myself there all the way to the point I'll pay dues to join a club or a team just to say that's how serious I am about this. And that is the other element of next year. 2025 is me making sure that I succeed in doing one thing. And if there's one thing to mark that year successful for me, car reviews. I'm working my way there. I have a very unique idea in my head about how I want to shoot them and how I want to do them. And I have one I'm going to do on my own Toyota Sienna van. I've already pretty much kind of done those on the GR Corolla. So I don't want to rinse and repeat on that. If I have an opportunity to do one on a 2025 one, specifically an automatic one, I most certainly will. And I'm actually going to try. I'm actually going to go forth and do something I didn't necessarily want to do. And that's kind of like go to dealerships. I kind of didn't want to go that route because I don't want to do car reviews when you're sitting in the dealership, because you can kind of tell when it's dealership cars because the Monroney's in the window and you really only could talk so much. I want to have unique experience where I'm really driving the car, where I'm going somewhere. I live in Texas. We can drive for hours any direction. So there's places to go. That is a huge goal for 2025. And I'm going to work my way there. I'm going to reach out to those people. When I'm at the auto show for Houston Auto Show next month, I'm reaching out to those people again. If I see people I recognize from last year, I'm going to walk up to them, give them my business card, because last year is my very first time going to the auto show. And I was nervous, not nervous, but it's so new, you just don't really know what's going on, especially if it's the first time you're recording yourself and just things of that nature. When I started in 2023, I didn't go to the auto show to record it. 2024 is the first time I did it. This year now, when I go back, I'm reaching out to whoever I see. If I see a familiar face, they're getting a business card. I'm going to ask them straight up, how can I get involved with reviewing cars with you? Now, funny enough, I've told my backstory before. I worked a job where I got very, very close, shoulder to shoulder with journalists working for a company that was delivering cars to magazine journalists and media outlets, all the way to the point where I saw car magazines that don't exist anymore at their beginning and at their peak, and then when they came down. So my whole thing is there's room for me. Really, that's what it comes down to. I have room to be there, and I'm going to be there. So the SEMA show was great. The idea of reviewing cars is going to come. Like I said, I did a few. Past the Fob, if you go onto my YouTube channel, is my angle when it comes to the automotive side. Past the Fob is really kind of how it came to me. Missy Elliott's song "Pass That Dutch." So I was just thinking about Past the Fob, because past the keys, cars don't really have keys. They have fobs, really. So that's why I got that idea from. So I'm going to run with that. The GR Corolla, I have made a decision that I really actually want to go further than I actually thought I wanted to do when it comes to how I want to build that car. And I want to kind of do as much as I can do myself and record it. And I've reached out to companies with a very big shot in the dark. I'm asking for partnerships and sponsorship for stuff that's fairly big. And I'm not the largest channel, but I just have a passion for doing the stuff myself and kind of videoing it and showing people here's kind of a POV vlog style of like doing more work on this particular platform. And so much so that a friend of mine, David Lee, he talked to me last week. We're at a car meet, and he mentioned to me about doing a podcast specifically on GR Corolla, maybe even just Gazoo Racing. And I was like, absolutely, because I love that car that much. It's not just about putting on some miles, selling it, trying to go to the next thing. I don't care about the fastest car in the world. I don't care if it doesn't have 900 horsepower, twin turbo V8s, and things like that. Maybe one day my car collection and my success will allow me to have some other cars, and I'll put that in the collection. But for now, that is the car that I love the most. And I want to push as far into it as I can. I do have a goal for the build, and it isn't at the upper reaches. I want to talk to people that are looking for street builds that are a little more than the stock, not to the extreme, not to the high race, but I want to be right at a nice level. So I want to do certain modifications in engine mods, and I want to take the head off and do things with the valve springs retainers. And I've talked to those companies, and I want to shoot that video. And I want to then maybe get to the wrapping. Remember, I talked about car wrapping when we were at the SEMA shows, my wife, and I kind of want to get a roll and then maybe do that on the car. So I want to just keep diving in further and further, and I'm going to get there. Other things, the channel, the podcast. Outside, I was mostly talking about YouTube related things. So again, if you haven't subscribed, I don't really know what you're doing. Okay. YouTube channel, CarQuicks, like and subscribe. For the podcast, I'm gonna keep going and keep going. I think I'm making some waves. I've gotten emails from people, very interesting. I've gotten followed by people that work at very large corporations that said, I found your podcast. I like what you're doing. I've been told from friends, keep going. I love the thumbnails. I love the work you're doing. Keep going. Don't stop. And I also know that there aren't many people that look like me in this space doing this. And so I'm not going to stop, mainly for my love of automotive and the passion I have, to even show my own kids and my family, friends that, hey, if you consistently stay at something, it can succeed and you can make it work. I know it's not the biggest thing. Some people may not care about automotive podcasts or podcasting. They may think that we've given mics to too many people, so they shouldn't have them. But I like the fact that what I'm talking about is an easy category for me. I'm not trying to dive into the wellness and relationship podcasting. I don't care. There's enough of those. I listen to them. But I want to keep going. I want to keep putting forth good audio, good content. I want to keep being more natural with it. I want to keep introducing more and more of things I'm working on in the back end and personality. And I do want to maybe get to a live podcast. I don't know when or how that may work out, but I'm going to work my way to that. I'm going to keep, working that idea and that muscle. And more events, like I said, more events. I do want to talk to some people on this podcast. I don't think that's a bad thing. I do want to make sure that the focus is just me alone. I want to make sure I'm doing it so that regardless of anything that's happening, I can always run this podcast solo dolo. But it would be cool to have maybe an interview, maybe a like-minded individual. And I think I could sprinkle those podcasts in as just added little bits of content. I don't want to make it like I'm interviewing someone, but I do want to throw in a friend or two or somebody that's like-minded when it comes to the automotive space and just pick their brain on whatever subject we're talking about. I think I'll do that more so when I get the new setup and I have it set up over there, because that way I'll be able to have kind of like a 2 microphone setup. Right now I'm in a space that's very good for just talking to you, the camera, solo. But I want to have a setup where I can have 2 people and, maybe 1 or 2 cameras or something like that. And that's going to be a goal too. It's going to be added in the list. And the automotive news is going to keep coming. It's going to keep being here. I'm going to continue to read about it. I'm going to continue to report on it. I'm going to continue to grow Facebook channels and social media. I want to grow the Instagram channel. I want to, my page, not my channel. I want to grow that page. I want to continue to grow the YouTube channel. That's my focus when it comes to podcasting. For the audio, locked in. YouTube, locked in. Then I want to lock in with like Instagram and growing that and kind of spreading out further and further and keep posting more things. I want to make sure that I'm honestly trying to gear up to be over posting. I want to be that person who's like, man, this guy posts every single day, twice a day. I want to keep it going. I'm going to start pulling clips from old podcasts and start posting them. And I want to work a schedule too. I need to get my schedule down. Like, I know I do this on a pretty much a good schedule every week, but on my end, I want to have a schedule better when it's writing down the ideas, getting the scheduling of the posts coming up, and just keep going and keep being more efficient and more efficient and more efficient. That way that it just starts running on an automated system, which I want to dive into more of that, more AI automated systems, things that I could just program in there and say, hey, do this on all these days, which I do now currently when it comes to the posts I do on Instagram. So that's a good thing too. But ultimately, I love doing this. And again, I'm going to wrap this up. It's New Year's Eve anyways. I'm sure when this goes out, most people are going to be busy popping fireworks and putting their wishes out and their resolutions. But if I have a resolution, not that I really ever have resolutions, it's more goals. That is, like I've said again, continuing with this, thanking you for joining, thanking you for being here. There's more to come. There's more happening. I'm going to continue this until I can no longer talk. And so until then, until next year, I want you to do as you wish and do as you may. Remember, this is the best automotive podcast out, okay? Find it, join it, share it. And as I say again, do as you wish and do as you may. It's Cameron Biggs, your host. I'll be back. Thanks again. It's the CarQuicks podcast. Peace.